network for growth, and it's basically the innovation technology transfer network for development and economic growth. Organized, actually funded by the Visegrad Fund, organized by UNICO and its partners. And we are greeting you from, I'm from the Czech Republic, but now this special event is dedicated to Hungary. To those who are here for the first time, we have been traveling already quite a lot. We started in Poland in January, so Czech for our Polish friends who are here with us. Then we visited Georgia, that was in February. In that time, January, February, still COVID was the issue number one. Then in Slovakia, the beginning of March, and now we are in Hungary. The world has changed a lot since that time. So we are in a very turbulent and special time of the history. But there is probably not much we can do today. So apart from what is going on in the world and in the European part of our continent, we still stick to our issue, which is technology transfer cooperation of universities and academia with industry. So as I said, today we are in Hungary. So I have to say, jó napot kívánok, magyarok, mindenkinek. So that's the hello in Hungarian. I have to say that this is a very special opportunity for me, since maybe some of you know that my wife is Hungarian. She's now in Hungary. We are here with the kids alone, and we are going to Hungary on Thursday morning. So for me, this is the special warming up for the Hungarian journey. Today, the program will be the same like with the others. We will start with 3 presentations. So first will be László Korány, who is a senior advisor for innovation affairs, and he will talk about R&D and the innovation landscape in Hungary. Then we have Ákos Jerszele, who is the Vice Rector for Research and Innovation at the University of Veterinary Medicine. And he will talk about the good practice in technology transfer. And also at the end, Csaba Pribensky will join him at the end of his presentation. And finally, we have last presentation, which is concerning startups innovation ecosystem in Hungary. And we will have Csongor Béaz, who is the managing director at Startup Hungary. After this presentation, which will last probably for 1 hour, we will have a panel discussion. So some other people will join us for some question about cooperation between universities, technology transfer, or entrepreneurship in Hungary. So at this second hour, you will have opportunity, all of you, to use the chat or just to ask questions, to comment. So this second hour we will devote to the discussion. So this is probably at the beginning all for myself. I will just try to keep the time. We have 5 minutes after the beginning. I hope I didn't forget anything. The project, Visegrad Fund, Innovation Technology Transfer, and we can go directly to László Korány. So László, the floor is yours, and I will give you the opportunity to present your view on the Hungarian state of affairs. Yes, we can see the presentation, hopefully.
Okay. So welcome everyone. Thank you for joining this meeting about Hungary. And I will try to first, as a first presenter, I would try to give an overview of the Hungarian research and innovation ecosystem.
Maybe László, just you can put to the presentation mode, because we can just see it if you can manage.
Okay. Yeah, just a second. So we at the ministry, where my role is primarily as an advisor, primarily in the field of startups and university innovation, but I was also involved in creating our research and innovation strategy for the years 21-30. And well, strategies are usually very boring documents, so I'm not going to describe a lot about the strategy, but I would just like to refer to this graph picture, the three main areas where we feel that there are a lot of important tasks to do to improve the situation of research and innovation in Hungary. Well, these are quite obvious areas. First of all, obviously, we have to generate knowledge. Then we have to ensure that this knowledge is utilized in innovation as well. And for that end, we have to develop the means for knowledge transfer. And then we have to take care that the utilization of knowledge is more efficient than it used to be. Now, regarding knowledge generation, I think our countries are facing more or less similar problems. We have to ensure that we have enough new researchers, and that's not a simple task, because the attraction of the so-called STEM fields like science, technology, mathematics fields is getting less attractive in the last couple of decades than some other fields like business, legal, and economics. And obviously, without the STEM education, it is very difficult to create technological knowledge. And so that's why the government is planning to introduce a number of programs that will help this part of the education. And I will discuss one interesting topic later. Now, another field regarding the knowledge transfer is somehow to involve universities in business and technological fields to create new partnerships with companies, with industry. So here we have quite a few tasks to do, and there are a number of areas where the government has a role. Obviously, the first and foremost is that companies realize that it is important to cooperate with universities, to cooperate with entities that are creating new knowledge. And then regarding knowledge utilization, again, the government has some tasks in helping the intellectual property awareness and management, to help SMEs in innovation, because large companies usually do that very well. And some infrastructure, again, what is the role of the government, a network of science and technological parks. Now, regarding the Hungarian RDI ecosystem, we have redefined that somewhat. And as you can see in the center, you see the universities. And the universities are connected to a number of other players and entities. From our point of view, it is very important that universities are connecting with SMEs, that there are programs for helping the entrepreneurial spirit, so different entrepreneurship programs, SME and startup programs connected to universities, and the importance of startups you can see also in these graphs. So there are a number of accelerators, incubators, business angels, and VCs that also cooperate with universities. Now, the role of the government is very important in establishing large R&D infrastructure, and also there was a kind of a redefinition of the basic research structure in Hungary recently. This is the Lorand Ötvös research network that was established on the previous Academy of Sciences network, and just recently an applied research network was started as well. This is somewhat similar to the German Fraunhofer network. You may be familiar with that. Now, geographically, just very briefly, obviously Budapest is very much the center. In case of Hungary, Budapest has a very large role, not just by population. Approximately 20% of the population lives in Budapest, and if we take the suburbs as well, then it's close to 30% of the population. So one of the roles of the government is to decentralize this very centered R&D and innovation network. So there are now a few new players or new areas in this field, and some of them are already well established, like Szeged, which is a leading place in biology and medical R&D. Győr, which is a center of transportation industry, and then Miskolc, Debrecen, and Pécs are also very important centers. Debrecen has the largest university in Hungary, or the second largest. It is always a dispute between Debrecen University and Eötvös Loránd University. So there is a significant decentralization going on. There are two important, very large infrastructures in Hungary. One is the ELI. This is a laser.
I'm sorry, Laszlo. We still see the second slide only of your presentation. At least I see only the second slide.
Third. This is the third, but I'm going on. Okay. ELI is a Czech, Romanian, and Hungarian center. Now, regarding the financial sources of R&D expenditure, you can see that in Hungary, a very large part of the R&D resources comes from industry. The role of government is in the case of the expenditure is not that high, which is it has its good and bad parts as well. Actually, we would like to increase the government expenditure on R&D. Now, one of the most important funding agency in Hungary is the National Research Development and Innovation Fund. This fund is actually distributing funds in three different areas. There is an excellent research grant part, which goes to individuals and research groups in all science fields.
Laszlo, I'm very sorry for interrupting, but we still see only the second slide of the presentation, and it seems that you are talking about the third one. If you could.
No, actually I'm now at the fourth one. So okay,
yeah.
I will then try to. Okay, this was. Can you see now this
Yeah, the last slide we saw was actually the second one with the three columns. Yeah, this one we didn't see before.
Oh, okay, you didn't see it. Oh, sorry. So this is about the structure of the RDI ecosystem. Sorry, because on my screen it was going well. Okay, so here you see the university-centered RDI structure. Here, actually, the accelerators, incubators, VCs, business angels, and the two RDI networks, the Ötvös network, which is the basic research network, and the Bay Zoltán network, which is an applied research network. And as you can see, universities are in the center, university industry centers and technology transfer are in the focus of the different government programs. This was a geographical view, as I was talking about it, but sorry that you didn't see it. So it is, you can see it now, right? The geographical view.
Yes, we can see it.
Yes, okay. So you can see that it's very much Budapest centered, but I was talking about the decentralization efforts and two very large infrastructures. One was the laser that I mentioned, that's also in Szeged, and Zalazon, which is an autonomous driving infrastructure, which is being built now. A significant part is already ready, and I know that companies from the region also go to this testing ground. For example, I know that some big companies are using that also for autonomous driving. This is like a comprehensive testing ground, probably the best one in Europe. Okay, now regarding the growth and the sources of R&D expenditure by the main sectors, you can see that industry since like 2008-9, industry is always giving the majority of the funding to R&D, and the external funding, which is primarily the EU funding, is also very significant. The government funding, the proportion of the government funding is more or less stable. Even sometimes it was decreasing. I was okay at this slide. I think when I recognize that you don't see them. This is the National Research Development and Innovation Fund, which is the main RDI fund and funding agency for Hungary. Okay, now I would like to go to some interesting policy highlights that are somewhat unusual or new or unorthodox in the Hungarian RDI ecosystem. One is the cooperative PhD program that was started only 2 years ago. Actually, now this is the second year, where actually people working in the industry can apply for a PhD program to get together with the university. They are working on topics coming from the industry. So this is how we would like not just to increase the number of PhD students, but also the cooperation between the industry and universities. A new network of national laboratories was started. 18 knowledge centers are being established throughout the country in different areas of research. One novelty, we can say that there is a university innovation ecosystem call, where a significant amount of the funding goes to POC, proof of concept funds, that the universities operate independently from the government. Just the funding comes from the government. One of the requirements is that on their their decision boards, their evaluation board, the number of industry people has to be in majority. So not the university people will decide about which project is good for innovation, but the industry guys should make decisions about it. And there is something what we call the new university model. This is changing the structure of the higher education. So public foundations were established, and they are running the individual universities. This is a little bit similar to the US or British model, where the university is not, in most cases, are not government owned. Well, this is very new. We need some time to see how this will work out, but definitely this is a significant change in this structure. And well, just at the end, I would like to highlight two programs or two important factors that that lead to the startup ecosystem. The government started so-called technological incubator program. This is very much based on the Israeli technological incubator model, where actually the incubators get funding for co-investment in startups. And there were 3 rounds of funding. 80% comes from the government, 20% comes from private sources. And in the first 2 rounds, over 100 startups were invested through this program, and quite a significant part of these startups became successful. Obviously, not all of them, but this is not even the goal, because we know how this works. We feel that this model is working quite well. We are continuing that in 2020. Actually, it was in 2021 when a 3rd round was started. And in Hungary, it is very significant, the government-funded VC activity. High Ventures is a very large government VC, actually the largest in the region, and maybe the 2nd largest in Europe. And their investment is quite significant in the Hungarian context. Actually, regarding the VC investment, Hungary is well above the EU average, which shows that that these government programs really make a change. Obviously, it is not always easy to create a business mindset in a government-owned VC. In High Ventures, I would say that's working better and better. So very briefly, this was my overview of the Hungarian R&D and innovation ecosystem. Obviously, if you have some questions, I'm happy to go into more details, but my time is over. So thank you for your attention.
So thank you very much. We managed perfectly on time. Great. And the question you might have, we will use that second part of our blog. And now I would like to ask Ákos, and he will present the things on academia and technology transfer in Hungary. So please, Ákos, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. First, I would like to ask László to stop the sharing, because then, oh, thank you, great. And now I'm here. Thank you very much. Aleš, is it going on?
Yes, now it's perfect. Now, yes.
Thank you. So good afternoon. It's a great honor to be here, and thank you for the invitation. I'm gonna talk about the role of the academic sector, including universities, in the Hungarian innovation ecosystem. My name is Ákos Erzsébet. I'm the Vice Rector of Research and Innovation of the University of Veterinary Medicine, Budapest. And after a national overview, I'm gonna introduce some some experiences about our work here at our university, because we are, although we are a very old university, we are very rookies in the innovation field. So I hope we can say some new things for the newcomers. First of all, I already learned something today, that my name is probably of Polish origin, but this will not, or not. We are gonna, let's see the presentation first. This is the Hungarian higher education system and platform, and here we can see, one second, the so the main areas, Budapest in the center, and the universities Debrecen, Pécs, Győr, Gödöllő, Miskolc, Szeged, the big higher education centers of Hungary. And connected to this, we also have two research networks in Hungary: the Eötvös Loránd Research Network, which constitutes of research centers and institutions, and the Bajor Zoltán Applied Research Network. So the first is the ELKH, is the fundamental, and the Bajor Zoltán is the applied research network of Hungary, organically connected to the university networks. And if you investigate this map, and we go to the second one, the red ones are the research knowledge areas concentrated in Budapest and the universities I mentioned before. The yellow ones are the industrial production zones, and the greenish blue areas are the areas with modern knowledge and technology intensive work. So they are largely concentrating around the big universities. On this slide, you can see how the research and innovation expenditure of Hungary evolved in the last 20 years. It's a very, very significant evolution. And 2 years ago, more than 2 billion euros were spent to research and development. And as you can see, more than half of these costs are associated with experimental development. So those research projects that are the closest to marketing. But Hungary originally is very strong in fundamental research, and according to the president of the Hungarian Scientific Academy, fundamental research, the deep fundamental research can give also good orientations to experimental development. So Hungary also invests a lot of money to fundamental research. Regarding the scientific areas, engineering sciences lead the Hungarian science branches, along with the natural sciences, which confirms my previous sentence that fundamental research in natural sciences is very important for us to go on to applied and experimental sciences. 60% of, as you can see on this table, in this table, more than 50,000 persons are working as researchers in Hungary, and more than 60% in private companies, and approximately 40% in universities and research centers. And for these researchers, university technology transfer offices play a very important role in spreading or to evolve their findings to marketed products. These university technology transfer offices are also supported by national grants. So the government supports this with to evolve such kind of offices in the universities. And these are controlled directly by the rector or chancellor to give a big freedom in their operation. And as an average, an Hungarian average, what I'm gonna show you here, these university TTOs are working with 2 to 8 full-time employees, and they always have an innovation committee, an expert committee that is gonna explain, or that is going to decide whether an idea is ready for marketing or not. And in an average 3 to 4 spin-off companies per university, and 5 to 10 patent apps per year are peculiar to Hungarian higher education institutes. On this graph, you can see the number of patents per year and the number of patents in force evolved within 10 years, so in 2010 and 2020, and this is evolving even nowadays. And it was a very important direction of the last some years that technology transfer offices in the universities changed the mindset, changed the way of thinking of researchers, and try to turn our heads to the innovators' mindset. And not only for publication we did research, but also for innovation. So it was a really necessary move in Hungary, especially at our university. It's also a very important step that small and medium enterprises are involved in this ecosystem, and because most of the enterprises were multinational, international big companies, and small and medium Hungarian enterprises now are involved in a much higher ratio than before. And we can see also it in our university, but I think it's not unfamiliar to you, that researchers are sometimes afraid of their ideas to be stolen, or they don't know what will happen with their ideas if they share with each other. So we need transparent rules and transparent procedures, and a very quick spread of information between them, because otherwise they think their idea is going to be lost. And some Hungarian examples for the industrial academic interactions and cooperations and the synergy, that here are some huge companies: Audi, Mercedes, Continental, Bosch, Knorr-Bremse, which are really implemented in some universities' life. On this picture, you can see Dr. Hanula, who was an engineer that took part in the development of the world famous Bugatti Veyron, the fastest car in the world, fastest sports car in the world, and in the Széchenyi University of Győr, Audi, the name of Audi is also inserted in the name of the faculty. So such organic synergy, such organic cooperation is characteristic to this industrial academic interaction. And then okay, I go to so this was a quick overview about the Hungarian openness of industrial university collaborations. And now I'd like to introduce some experiences how we did it in the last some years. I called it a case study in our university, because we started this implementation into the Hungarian innovation ecosystem only in 2018, so only 4 years ago. And although we are a 235 years old university, we are one of the oldest university veterinary schools in the world. We look into the future and try to change the mindset of our researchers, what I told you that was so difficult. So we are one of the oldest veterinary schools in the world with a beautiful campus in Budapest. But despite this, this age, we use innovative education and technological tools and cutting edge diagnostic, laboratory and therapeutic facilities in our institution. And we are the most international university in Hungary. So we welcome ideas from all around the world. We are receiving students from more than 60 countries. I think it's 65 countries this year. And we are also accredited by the European Accreditation Committee. And we are very proud of this. Our Innovation and Tech Transfer Office was established in 2018. This is our staff. You know Laszlo, he's our technical expert. Csaba Pribenski is gonna present an idea about presents a product, an innovation at the end of my lecture. And our office works with 5 members now, and we are organically developing and organically evolving now. There was a big step in 2018, this university innovation ecosystem grant provided by the government that gave our first kick into this ecosystem. And with this grant, with the help of this grant, we could support our internal ideas, the ideas of our researchers, which was absolutely unknown before. And we launched our very successful proof of concept program, which I'm going to talk in some minutes. We are covering intellectual property costs from this grant, freedom to operate, novelty, patenting costs, and so on. And we also organize internal trainings for not only for the researchers and not only for PhD candidates, but also for students, and they are very open for this. They like to think more innovational than the previous generations. We organized a very successful competition, a hackathon, and we called it Vetathon, together with Óbuda University. So engineers and veterinarians work together, and one of the best groups even found out a product that might be marketed in the future. So although these are only, sorry for the word, but they are only students, they found out something that can even be a great novelty for the veterinary practitioners. And we also take part in the Hungarian Startup University program, which is a national program and also helps the students to evolve in their innovational thinking. And besides this grant, we decided to put 5% of all of the incomes of the university, all of the research incomes of the university, and service incomes to Research and Innovation Fund. And this Research and Innovation Fund will provide financial background to these goals that were introduced by this grant. And finally, I'd like to talk about a proof of concept program in 1 or 2 minutes, which we built from nothing, and it was so successful that we can call our proof of concept program a proof of concept, and it was a successful proof of concept. And now we are very proud to talk about this wherever we go. Our first goal in the proof of concept idea, that we had to change the mindset from aiming to publish to aiming to the market. And that's why the researchers needed a significant mentoring during the preparations, and this mentoring was provided by the innovation office, and there was a multi-step selection process. There was an admission process into this proof of concept program, and during this admission there was a presentation in the presence of industry representatives, and they decided about the success of the proof of concept, or not the success, but about the promising nature of the proof of concept. And when their grant was successful, they received a pre-seed fund, and they received education and mentoring, and now we have 6 or 7 proof of concept ideas that are ready for going on. So we are really proud of this proof of concept program. And the main goal was to reach a prototype phase, and in some cases we already have this phase. Now, in these days, we are announcing the second round, and the successful first rounders are going together without a new admission, but we are providing seats for newcomers now. And finally, the spectrum of our POC projects: medical devices, drug discovery, in vitro diagnostic tests on the fields of horses, companion animals, dog ophthalmology, obstetrics, and forensic medicine. So a very broad spectrum of scientific areas. And we realized that as the only Hungarian veterinary university, we are in a unique position, because we are the only ones that that can really produce new ideas, or not the only ones, but we are the main ones that are ready to produce new ideas for the industry. So that's why we are pushing this POC project so much. And thank you for your attention. And now I'm gonna pass my last some minutes to my colleague Csaba Privensky, who is the technical expert of our innovation office. Csaba, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Ákos, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to present. Yes, Aleš at the beginning was talking about the university, about the universe, and László was talking about the Hungarian ecosystem as it is. Ákos was zooming even further into our university, and I would like to take an even closer zoom, showing a project, a case study of an idea which actually became a product. The title of the first chapters of this story could be named as a veterinary horse that has all the existing symptoms. But regardless of all of these, this ended up as a fairy tale. So let us begin. Ákos, could you please change the slide? Thank you. If I want to divide the timeline in our university in this aspect, I can draw a line 2019. That was the time when actually we made the university directives for innovation. Before that, there was nothing, and after that, there was the light. So basically, before, in the dark ages, when this project started, there was no concept of how a promising project rooted from university may become a product. There were very few startups, very few startup projects that actually survived. These projects were driven by the innovators themselves, basically, and usually they carried the same symptoms of the startup syndrome. Ákos, please. Yeah, so what are these syndromes? And these ones are quite general. Lack of management and funds, very low knowledge about the market, or no knowledge about the market, always changing horizon. The way how we used to express it is that we are always shooting onto a moving target, right? Those projects completely lacked experience in technical development, in production, in quality assurance and quality control. There was no concept of business development. There was no strategy with regards to IP. Of course, there was no marketing. Just imagine that these guys in this project as well, they were coming from the University of Veterinary Science. So these knowledges were not present. And these startups, these early stage startups, they have a very strong subjectivity about the value of the technology, about the true market needs. What does the market need exactly? And of course, everybody is overestimating the readiness of that technology. So could you please change the slide, please, Ákos? So basically that was the way how these early startups, including this one ours, were working with full confidence, regardless of anything which came. Could you please change the slide? Yeah, and that optimism can be extremely painful sometimes. Next, please. Of course, it's always the products which are the stars at the end. So let me discuss what was this project about, which started in the dark ages, but finally ended up in a glorious situation. The area itself is in animal and human embryology. The embryos are developing in a closed system, in incubator, and they are developing for like 5-6 days, and nobody knows what is happening with them. And the ultimate question is which one to select, how to judge them. If I take them out very, very frequently to know how they develop, then I can reduce their viability. If I don't take them out, then I don't know anything about them. So what we did, and now we open up the incubator, thank you, Ákos, is that we have, come back please, one slide back. We have developed a unique microscope system. What you see in this incubator, these ones are extremely compressed digital inverted microscopes. And on these microscopes, we have also developed a special type of Petri dish, which contains small microwells. That's what you can see on the picture right on the right-hand side below. And in those microwells, those are the places that actually keep the embryos in position. So I exactly know which embryo is which. And these automated microscopes, they are taking images every 10 minutes. And they send the information outside of the incubator. So I can watch the practitioner, the embryologist, let it be a veterinarian or a human embryologist, can get all the information of the dynamics of embryo development, why nobody touches the embryos ever. So can you please go to the next slide? And could you please start the video? It's on, yeah. So what you can see, that's the output of this system. Like 10 embryos at the same time, they are taken, are being followed automatically, and you can see the dynamics of embryo development. And you can see these two embryos, they develop very similar, but their dynamics is a bit different. And since due to research, we got to know which is the optimal, that was a very, very easy task to select the best one to implant. Okay, next one, please. So this was the product. Let's see the company behind. It was a spin-off company, spinning off from a university PhD program. It was founded 15 years ago by grants and owners funds. There was a seed coming in from a business angel. Headcount went up to 4. There was a venture capital investment 4 years later. Headcount went up to 12. And 2 years later, there was a successful acquisition by a Swedish leading company. That was an exit, a full exit. So basically, in the next couple of years, the company integrated into the Swedish multinational organization. Headcount went up from 20 to 36. And then in the next couple of years, we have purchased all the competitors on the market. So the next couple of years were the integration of those companies. And by 5 years ago, basically the technology itself became an industrial standard in human IVF. Next, please. If you see the spendings in the first couple of years, it was research only and some investments, and then the investments were growing. Research funds were becoming less and less, and then the sales began. The sales, the income from sales began to take over. Next, please. If you check the product story, that project produced the very first time-lapse system for clinical use. And within 1 year, basically, the very first baby was born using that system, and that was the first time as they've been the word. And he was named Attila, Ales, yeah, Attila. So that was his name. The first baby, that was Hungarian. In a couple of years, the technology spread amongst 52 countries. Hundreds of thousands of patients have been followed, and basically within a couple of years, it became a standard of care, so industrial standards. And such as in the medical field, the meta-analysis published that actually showed the true value of any innovation or new technology. That was the first one was published 5 years ago, not 4 years ago, and actually it showed a significant decrease of abortions and increases of live birth rates due to this system. So next, please. Yeah, no, previous one. Thank you. So basically, in the first couple of years, this company started with the full flow of these startup syndromes, lack of management, market ignorance, and so on and so forth, what I had described before. That was BID, before the innovation directives. When the venture capital company arrived to this project in 2010, all changed. So there were a true drive in the system, and this is the drive which is given by our university as well after the university directives. Next, please. Yeah. So basically, what are we offering in this office, so to say? So we are there to help product development. We are there to do incubation for these startups. We actually perform IP strategy search for these projects. We perform business development for them. We are there to help the partnering. Definitely, there's a humongous pain to select and contract subcontractors. We have huge experience, so we are also helping these projects with these. We have the knowledge to go with grants and find investors, and also we have industry experience, and so on and so forth. So basically, this project which I have described, it was pretty much a good description of what can happen without guidance and what will happen if there is a guidance. And we hope that we can provide, or we will provide, a good guidance for startups that are coming from our nest, so to say. And with this, I thank you for the attention, and in the name of Ákos as well, I say goodbye. And we should go for the next presenter. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for a very interesting story. Just for the others, the name of our second son is also Attila, but he was born not in 2010, but in 2015. So we are not those examples. So now it's time for Csongor Bias. Csongor, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Aleš, and thanks everybody for the invitation. I'm very delighted to present you about the Hungarian startup ecosystem. My name is Csongor Bias. I'm currently the managing director of Startup Hungary. Before to Startup Hungary, I have been working with early stage startups for almost 10 years now in Hungary. I was working with local VCs. Also, I launched an accelerator program and a co-working space. I've been an organizer of many different meetups, community initiatives, and I was also running a web agency which was working again with startups. I define myself as a community builder. I really enjoy to be around aspirational, ambitious founders, and I'm trying my best to support them and to support the growth of the ecosystem. So before I would talk about the ecosystem itself, let me say a few words about the organization that I'm currently heading, which is called Startup Hungary. It's a grassroots NGO. Actually, it was started by 12 startup founders. These startup founders, who you can see on the right side of the screen, they are very well known. They are the local digital champions. They built up internationally recognized companies. Most of them has actually exited and became an angel investor or other type of investor. And we had this idea that we need to bring together these been there, done that type of successful people who are ready to give back to the community. And actually, besides them, our organization is also backed by key ecosystem players such as corporates as Google, Microsoft, Citibank, local VCs, including Portfolion, who you will meet later at the panel discussion, and other VCs in the Hungarian startup market, including Day One Capital, Lead Ventures, and other. And what we do is basically every activity that we do is targeted to have more and better startups. We have several community initiatives, including a monthly meetup group, as well as we publish an annual startup report. The second edition has been just published actually last week, and I'm going to bring you some of the key insights in today's presentation. We also host a lot of educational programs, and we try to work with partners like the Innovation Ministry and other policymakers to help them shape a more startup-friendly legal environment. So that's about us in a nutshell. And let me talk about the local startup ecosystem with a little historic overview. I think it's important to talk about the first generation success stories. This list by all means is not complete. These are some of the most well-known and biggest success stories that the local startup ecosystem has produced. And these are the companies that have been very impactful in shaping the current ecosystem. I'm going to tell you why. Luckily, we work together, many of these founders. Logmein, Prezi, and Ustream, the trio, which is probably the most well-known. All of these companies were funded around 2005. Logmein actually went public, so it went on the New York Stock Exchange in 2009, and it became a unicorn, which was fairly unique in that time. Actually in that time, there were only 5 unicorns. We call unicorn the private tech companies that's valuation has reached the 1 billion USD mark. And Hungary have been one of the first Central Eastern European country that were able to produce one of these companies. Prezi is also very well known. They went and opened up a US headquarter early on and had tier 1 investors, including Excel partners. Ustream was kind of the same. Actually, it was acquired in 2016 by IBM. And actually Balabit, IND, NNG, they are all also acquired companies. These exits were around 100 and 150 million euro. And on the bottom part, you can see some smaller exits, but they are very interesting because actually the founder of Distinction, who managed to sell his company to Skyscanner, one of Europe's shiniest unicorn and most valuable company in the travel industry. His company became the Hungarian Center for Development of Skyscanner. And later on, when the founder ended up funding his new company, the Skyscanner network were there and they became their first investors. And the previous Skyscanner employees became the first employees. Also, the founder of Index Tools, Marton Szőke, he's now one of the most prolific angel investor in Hungary. His company was acquired by Yahoo. So these were the kind of the OG success stories. And why these are important? Because actually these kind of successes have multiplicator effect. So, when we have more and more startups succeeding, they will lead to high profile exits, which will obviously help to attract further global venture capital. And with more capital present, there we will have even more ambitious companies, which will lead to bigger outcomes. And, these companies will produce a very skilled and talented talent pool who have witnessed how to scale up these sort of companies, and that will end up leading to more quality startups, and also will end up leading to more angel investors, and the local VC firms will also catch up with the global standards. So that's why I'm saying that the past has a very essential effect on the current startup scene. And although we have produced many successes, there haven't been any major success stories, like, for example, what the Skype effect was for Estonia, right? Because Skype was such a big exit, with its $8 billion, that it didn't just create 1 or 2 angels, but it actually ended up creating more than 100 angels in the Estonian ecosystem. And it's not a coincidence that by today Estonia has 9 unicorns for 3 million population, which actually makes them the #1 spot for the unicorn per capita metric. All of the new generation success stories in Estonia has a key employee, has an angel investor who were involved in Skype or the success stories that were following that. So this circulating effect, we believe, is one of the key in growing startup ecosystems. At Startup Hungary, we try to accelerate this effect by bringing the experienced funders into one platform. So let's talk about the present. I think 2021 was a very successful year for the Hungarian startup ecosystem, probably one of the most successful one. Just a few highlights from last year. Bitrise, probably currently the most valuable Hungarian startup. They managed to raise a Series C investment led by Insight Venture. It was a $60 million investment. Also, Sion and Kraft, they managed to raise from Creandum, which is one of Europe's best investors. Basically, they are the early backers of companies like Spotify, Kahoot, Bolt, and Klarna. And Sion raised a 10 million Series A round, and Kraft raised an 8 million Series A round. Also from previous years, probably the shiniest examples of promising signs were Turbine, which is actually a university spin-off. It's a medtech company spinning out of Semmelweis University, and they use AI for drug discovery and support cancer researchers. So they also raised a 4 million USD investment from Excel Partners, actually the first investor of Prezi, as well as the some of the other companies. Trezorit, which was one of the leading company in end-to-end encrypted cloud storage, has also came out actually from a university research project back in the days. And after building the company for almost 10 years, they managed to sell it last year for the Swiss postal office. So that was definitely one big highlight from 2021. And then Kraft is actually the company that I mentioned that was funded by the guy who sold the distinction to Skyscanner. So these companies are a testament that this kind of circulating effect works. For example, in Bitrise, one of the first angel investors was Ustream funders who became an angel investors after selling IBM, after selling his company to IBM. And by today, you see many people, ex-key employees of Ustream working at Bitrise. Nevertheless, these success stories, I would say that Hungary is a little bit lagging behind. If you compare it to other data, in terms of funding, we are definitely behind. I'm going to talk about more on funding, but actually, if you compare, we are kind of in the middle section, and 90% of the funding actually in Hungary came from governmental and EU funds, which is by far the biggest overdominance of governmental and public money in the startup sector in the region and in Europe. And the total sum is also lagging much behind. The Central Eastern European startup ecosystem is really hot. Last year, it was a record of 5.4 billion euros, which was actually a two and a half times more than the previous year. And actually, from the number of unicorns from 2015 grew from 5 to 37. And we even in 2015 we already had a unicorn, and this recent significant growth in the number of the unicorns, we tend to fall out from that, and we haven't really produced any unicorns if we don't count LogMeIn. Although I have to say that some of the companies in the previous slides, especially in the top row, are getting there, and they are considered now as unicorns. I also call them sometimes polycorns. Their valuation are rumored about around 500 million. So in the next few years, they definitely have a chance to join the CE Unicorn League. So a few results about our most recent surveys, who are funding startups in Hungary. In the survey and in our startup report, we actually distinguish between champion startups and pretender startups. And the champion startups are the ones that are already kind of transitioning into a growth phase. So they are becoming scale-ups. All the champion startups have an average of €1 million annual recurring revenue and a monthly growth rate of 5%. Whereas the pretender startups are the ones that are lagging a little bit. So the pretender startups are older than 3 years. They produce less than €10,000 monthly recurring revenue, and they haven't really found product market fit. And actually, out of the 212 respondents, we identified 27 champions and 54 pretenders. So you can say that basically around 10% of the startups are capable to get into this 1 million annual recurring revenue benchmark, which I would say still is a fairly early stage if we consider that in an international level, that would make them, you know, ready for an international Series A level. So what you can see on this slide is the basic funder demographics. As you can see, it's very surprising that, you know, you would think that startups are more popular with youngsters, but actually almost 70% of the total funders are above 30. And if we look at the champions, so the really good performing companies, that is almost reaching 90%. Needless to say, I think it's this panel and this event is also unfortunately a good testament and a good example of how there is an imbalance between gender and how females are underrepresented in the tech sector. Basically, only 26% of the startups have female funders and only 12% of the startups have female CEOs. So what are the, you know, we talked about the who are funding startups. Let's talk about the what are they building. Probably these charts are a little bit small, so let me just read it out. The most popular verticals are artificial intelligence, machine learning, big data, and fintech. Hardware is also pretty popular. Actually, it increased popularity during the last year. The red lines are basically the 2020 metric, and the 2021 is the black one. Definitely the type of products, mobile applications and web, so ICT, also marketplace products are fairly popular, as well as medtech products. And you can say that, you know, most of the companies are succeeding by targeting B2B rather than consumer. So in general, you can say that basically AI, big data, and fintech and medtech are the most popular verticals. Most of the companies are focusing on scalable business models, so subscription-based business models, software as a service models with web and mobile applications, and most of the companies are actually focusing on B2B rather than consumer. One very interesting chart and result is that Hungarian startups tend to be really ambitious. Actually, almost 40% of the startups believe that they will be unicorns, and 83% of the startups believe that they're gonna be a key player in the international industry. Unfortunately, this global ambition doesn't meet the practical experience sometimes. One very telling example of that is that if you compare basically on the right side, we asked in 2020 how many startups think that they're gonna raise in the next year from international VCs, and 34% said that they're gonna do that. Today and this year, this result is actually above 40%, but actually in reality, only 4 companies were able to do that in 2021. So as you can see on the left side, it's still only around 10% the companies, 10% of the companies were able to go and do fundraising on an international level. Yeah, as Laszlo said in his previous presentation, governmental and EU sources are very over-dominated in the local fundraising scene. Actually, those who raised funds, 70% of them only raised governmental money. And as you can see, there are very a few companies that were able to raise not just from state funds, but also from private funds, which indicates for us that basically the private funds and the state funds don't work that much together that well. And we have our theories why it's that. You know, sometimes governmental funds, as Laszlo also suggested, they have a more difficult time to function with a business mindset, and sometimes, you know, these type of resources come with a lot of strings attached, including different constraints and bureaucratical overhead, which is sometimes is just not a fit with how private and international VCs work. A few great examples from the ecosystem, and this is again by no means a complete list, rather just an example of different initiatives from the supportive ecosystem. I think Bridge Budapest was one of the first organization that was funded by Prezi, Logmin, and Ustream that really did a lot for spreading the entrepreneurial culture in the mainstream media and raising role models of these entrepreneurial champions, which is, I think, a number one step in order to facilitate a thriving ecosystem. You know, we do have a thriving meetup culture. There are basically every week you can find plenty of events where you can learn and connect with the community members. MKB FinTech Lab is just one of the examples of many corporate accelerators. So the local enterprises, the local corporates, almost all of them run sort of hackathons and incubation programs and competitions. So I think that's also a great thing. You know, Hungarian Startup University program was already mentioned, but that's also a very important initiative to kind of feed the top line growth and get enough new youngsters to try to start new companies. And I'd like to mention ourselves as also one of the key ecosystem players. Here, there is just a chart of how many startups are actually having strategic collaboration with corporations, and as you can see, it's increasing. It's almost 60%, and most of them consider it as a good collaboration. Just as a summary, a few ideas about what we believe as Startup Hungary we need to do to grow the ecosystem even further. We need to spread a global mindset from day one. I think companies and startups shouldn't focus on the local market most of the times, and they should go global by day one. We need to spread international best practices, not just with startups, but also with VCs. We need to have the government to also not just be active on the fundraising side and providing financial resources for startups, but also to have a startup friendly regulatory environment, which I think we have a lot of room to improve. And we also need to incentivize to have more private funding, private money in the market, and we need to bring the private funding and the public funding closer to each other. As well, lastly, we need entrepreneurship in education, and I believe that collaboration between universities and this cross-disciplinary tree where students from different fields can meet each other and start to work on exciting projects is definitely the way forward. So thank you for your attention. My name was Csongor Biás, and I'm very happy to answer questions in email. So please feel free to get in touch.
Well, thank you very much for a very interesting presentation. Great. And now we have around 45 minutes for the rest of our today's event. We will start with a kind of a panel discussion, but that's to actually to ease the discussion. Anybody then can join the discussion, make comment, write anything to the chat. So apart from Csaba, who is with us as the first panelist, then I would like to invite and also ask whether Ferenc Pongrác is here. as well with us? We will see.
Yes, I'm here. Yes.
Perfect. Perfect. So just maybe if you can shortly introduce yourself in 1 minute.
Yeah, thank you. So my name is Ferenc Pongrácz. I'm General Manager for Innovation at Tungstram Group. And we have been running many initiatives, spin-offs. We did an acquisition as well. Lately, we are quite successful in agri-tech innovations. So we started a new lighting product, which is also an IoT device and connected with AI, which is a lighting product for greenhouses. And from zero, we grew to a $14 million business in 3 years, basically. So that's one of the success stories we have, but we are running other projects. We have a portfolio of something 50 innovative projects.
Okay, thank you very much. And I hope the reason why you are sitting in the car is not that you are kicked out from your home.
No, actually, I visited a startup company, so
Okay.
we have been working. Yeah.
I know some people who are sitting in the car saying, "Okay, my wife told me to leave, so I only have my car left." So this is
maybe, but I wouldn't tell you that.
Thank you very much. And we also have András Molnár, who will be with us. And András, are you here?
Yeah. Hello, Alice.
Hello. So can you just introduce yourself in 1 minute?
Sure. Thank you very much for the invitation. Again, my name is András Molnár. I'm representing a venture capital company called Portfolio Capital Partners. The company I represent is basically a very typical venture capital and private equity company operating in Budapest with a team of 22. We mainly invest in Central and Eastern Europe, including obviously Hungary. Today, we purely focus on let's say a broader based information technology investments that can be e-commerce, infrastructure, enterprise infrastructure, information security, and so on. We set up our funds in a multi investment approach, meaning that we invest in a very early stage, but also we also joined Series B and Series C runs as one of the portfolio companies growing. At the beginning, I used to have the opportunity to work together with Csaba, who was presenting a mutual story roughly an hour ago, and there's another similar kind of attitude that Csaba has with other entrepreneurs, as I mentioned, in Hungary and the region as well.
Okay, thank you very much. I have some 3 preliminary general questions for you. I wanted to start with the first one. However, I will start with the last one, because also Csongor mentioned entrepreneurship and entrepreneurial culture. So my question to all 3 of you, or maybe we can start with Csaba. How important is the entrepreneurial spirit, and how do you see, in your personal view, the level of actually entrepreneurship in the young generation? Whether you can see that people are willing nowadays, young people in Hungary, to do some projects, to take a risk, to go on their own, and what should be done in order to encourage that entrepreneurial culture? So Csaba, if you can start.
Yeah, what do you mean by saying young generation? Who is young?
Okay, let's say in 20s or 15 plus.
Okay.
I'm not young anymore. I'm 50 and I feel already old.
Yeah, but at least honest. Well, at the time when we started, that was like 15 years ago, 20 years ago almost. I think the situation was somewhat different. So we were a lot like bush rangers. We had to cut our own way in the jungle. And if a lion came in front, then we had to kill the lion. If we had to swim across the river, then we did it. But we were not prepared to do that. And my story, or our story, that's in the medical field. That's a completely different story compared to IT. So if I take that more than a decade have passed, I think that the youngsters, they have a lot more open spirit to do so. I guess they have a lot more tools, and they have a lot more aid. Just to have an example, as our university as an example, in the last 4 years, we actually, based on our experience and our fights, we actually can give, I think, good advices. I think we have the good teams to work with, like Lion and András. If anything pops up, which needs an investment, I know who to call. And I've seen pitfalls, and I've seen projects falling. I have that projects as well. So I think we can give the right advices, which is definitely good. Yes, if I would be in IT, then I would be a lot more optimistic that my time to market would be a lot shorter. I'm in medtech. That's a completely different story. So just to give you a very short answer, I think people in the 20s are a lot more open. They have a lot more tools. The world is a lot more open as well. So I think, and what I can see in our university, a lot more people actually willing to do so. They are courageous. They dare to dream. I guess they're a lot more ambitious, with a lot more knowledge than we've been at our start. So I think the situation is a lot better now. Governmental funds, governmental attitude, university attitudes, they have changed a lot. People are not that jealous anymore about their knowledge that would be stolen. People are a lot more open to communicate it, to ask for help, and they are accepting help as well. In our age, it wasn't like that, really.
Thank you very much, Ferenc. How do you see it yourself? Do you see more people, encouraged to take some risk and do their own projects?
Yes, definitely. So I think it's kind of fashion. So I'm 48, so I'm also not 20 anymore. I have actually a son who is more than 20 years old, and when I can see his generation, it's absolutely natural that they wanna do their own enterprise. So the young generation's heroes are actually the people you were just talking about. So the entrepreneurs, the startups, and so on. When I was young, we wanted to work for an international corporate. We wanted to be corporate soldiers. I myself spent 18 years at IBM. So that was the dream for us that time. But nowadays it's different. People or young people wanna have their own companies. Actually, in Hungary, there's a quite interesting program. It's called Startup University. I like it a lot. So this is basically a practical program for students who can study entrepreneurship in different universities. So you can go to medical school, or you can go to engineering school, and they study entrepreneurship as well. I also agree that as I saw in Csongor's presentation, the successful startups or high valued companies are usually run by people who have more experience. So I personally work with many people who are above 50, sometimes above 60. Actually, I said I visited a startup company. I would rather say I visited a biotech company right now, and I'm sitting in a parking place right now. The owners there are 75 plus, and they're still running projects and doing international things. After selling the innovations for multiple $10 million, so they have a lot of money already from that, but not sitting on the bottom, but running other innovations and thinking about new products. So I don't think this is the age. I think this is the attitude. But overall, I think yes, there is a tendency that more people are interested in being entrepreneur.
Thank you very much. So, Andraž, what is your view? Can you see it also the same way?
I think your question is by nature very tricky. That who is an entrepreneur and who is a researcher, and what's exactly the difference? I'm sure that to the same question I give different answer than Csaba, that we used to work very closely together for a few years. Csaba, you started your company as an entrepreneur. When we joined as an investor, the story, you went back to lead the research and development part of the operation, and we appointed together with you a CEO that we mutually agreed that will be a better entrepreneur, a better CEO. But I think you always look at yourself as a researcher. I always look at you as an entrepreneur, and there are slight differences in between the two in terms of attitude. Both guys never give up. Both guys usually doesn't give a shit what others are saying. So there are many similarities in the two. Maybe there are trends that maybe Ferenc, you mentioned that when we were closing our studies, we wanted to work for larger enterprises, multinational companies. Now everybody wants to work in smaller operations to have a bigger impact. That's something already closer to entrepreneurship. But I can imagine that I have a son at 10 years old who doesn't want to work because Bitcoin can make miracles, and the attitude of maybe respect is an interesting word, because it's also a double-edged sword here, that a respect towards knowledge and towards research and towards constant work, or respect also giving you boundaries usually in large enterprises where you don't feel that you have the obligation to challenge things that are already given, meaning simple things that who is your boss and who is not your boss. So there could be trends, and this is I think that your question is basically tricky because it's full of emotions and full of more psychological things than corporate or university regulations.
Thank you very much. I also have a 10-year-old son who doesn't want to work either. So we have some things in common. That's very interesting. Maybe one more question before the others can also make their
There's
comment.
a saying that if you work too much, you don't have time to earn money.
Yeah.
So maybe they are right.
Interesting. Maybe one question about the higher education system, because all of you kind of experience the Hungarian higher education systems. I would like to ask how you see because we didn't go into more details into this nowadays, and from my experience, I know that there is a different level of cooperation between universities and industry, also within the Hungarian higher education system. So my question is how you see in general, or whether you can generalize at all, the stage of the situation and cooperation between universities and industry, or business, or whatever you want to call it. Whether Hungarian universities nowadays are open enough, or whether they are still kind of protective. So what's your personal view on that, and whether we need universities to be more open in collaboration with business or industry? So maybe Csaba, if you can start once again.
Yeah, it's a tough question, and again, you need to differentiate between fields of science and fields of industry. I work for the University of Academic Science. In our case, as Ákos had mentioned, this is a very close community. We are in contact with producers of foodstuff and pharmaceutical companies, small ones and larger ones. of course, everybody who is producing anything that are used by veterinarians, and also, of course, they are also involved in food safety, all the aspects of food safety. And all of these companies who are in this network, they are headed by or led by our ex-students. So I mean, that's a very, very unique situation. So by nature, we work together. By nature, anything pops up in the industry, they would come to us. Since now we have this Office for Innovation and Technology Transfer, now it's a lot easier and a lot more centralized, and we try to ensure that anything that is innovation from our university is not going to get lost, but is going to find its own partner out on the field, out in the industry. So in a nutshell, that's how I would describe ourselves. I think that's quite a unique situation. But of course, it's a lot different if you go to a larger scale university like the University of Technology, who are by nature embedded in large multinational companies like Audi, like Tungstram, and I don't think that I should be the one who would describe these connections, but definitely complete departments. The aim of their research are appointed by industrial partners who are actually on the field, and they know their needs. So the needs are by nature transported to the university, and they do research accordingly. And that research, the final product of that one is instantly got into the right hand that will be commercialized. So I think that would be a nice transfer to the.
Yeah. Thank you very much, and I also share your view that it really depends on the field as well. The field is very, very important in judging the cooperation. Ferenc, what is your view on that issue?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think this is developing. So the current government and the part of the government that is dealing with innovation is placing the universities to the center of the innovation. We saw a very good presentation from László about that, and we can see the push, and we can see that there is an intention that I think this is a development, or this is a process. What is happening is, I think it's true for the whole region, not only for Hungary, that more and more money is spent on research and development, and I see different attitudes in different phases of the process. So let's say below TRL 7 or even below TRL 5. So when you develop a new product, usually this is grant-based product development, and what I can see is that everything is, you get what you measure. So people are optimizing the processes, what the expectations are. So more or less the system, the grant system is, and this is true for Europe as well, is focusing on prototypes, and not necessarily innovation in a way that this is a successful commercialization of an innovation. So very often the focus is on administration, make sure that the money is properly spent, the report is properly done, and all the ticks are ticked, and you've got something that is fulfilling the grant requirements, and not necessarily something that is successful. But there is a change, of course. So we have been running some projects together with universities as well. We try to create a model where university is creating an IP, and this IP is then an income for the university. So royalty income or something like that. So we try to create new ways when the university is not only incentivized on getting grant money, but also incentivized on getting money from the industrialization or commercialization of the products. I think also there's a topic, that how do you make incentive for the people who are involved in innovation, the individuals. So if it is a grant-based project, they get special extra money for the project. So this is fine. But if there is no financial return on the commercial usage, then I think this is an issue. And then these are things that are not 100% organized yet. Another thing is that again, the way the universities are dealing with IP that is generated within the universities is something that we have to discover. So how to make money out of the intellectual assets that the universities are making, and how to incentivize the people to do that. So very often university people are making commercial success, but not in the heart of the university, but kind of as a private individual. And I think that's a challenge, and this is what I think everybody is working on right now, to how to make a system that is motivating not only for product development or new publications, but also for commercial success as an organization, not only as individuals who are working in universities. So that's how I see it, but I think it's developing, but there is a long way to go.
Yeah, thank you very much. András, what is your perspective on that issue?
Even though that I successfully managed to invest into companies that has a university route going back, or connections like Csaba, you started your company as a university research, or Csongor was mentioning his presentation Trezorit, which was also going back to a few guys working on a PhD problem. I can say that I'm in general I'm pessimistic about hunting for opportunities that are ready to commercialize, and that the right, I think it's a very key word that Ferenc was mentioning, that the right incentives is behind them. I'm basically not built in my personal day-to-day operation to go there and convincing operations that so I'm not ready to have them figure out what to do with an innovation. And Ákos's presentation is giving me, you know, a heads up that, hey, many years passed and maybe there is something different now, and I should understand my local environment better than basically not learning anything since 2012 about it. But going back to my memories, there is absolutely no time to figure out what's the right way of licensing something. This should be given, and no energy from the investor point of view, and no energy required from the entrepreneurs to set up a spin-off. Yeah, so you guys also have an impact on me that things are changing, especially that I as in my introduction I said that I'm purely working on information technology, where the licensing and all these questions is even more complex than it makes sense or not at all.
Thank you very much. So anybody from the participants who can just add or comment, maybe Ákos, if you want to add few and then Csaba, okay?
Just 2 sentences. First, that on our field, I'm much more optimistic. I think our industrial connections are really evolving, and just as our example, are on the field of I'm a pharmacologist, and in drug discovery we are playing I think a good role in Hungary, and the Hungarian drug companies since try to solve everything on their own, but they realize that they are not to doesn't have the knowledge base for that, and that's why they connected us, and then now we are working together, and we have a lot of industrial cooperations now, and I think they both made us happy. So I'm very optimistic from this point of view, but this is only the veterinary field. And to your first question, one comment that the students, the young generation, it's also very, very good to see here in our university that we are a small university, but 20% of our students took this Hungarian Startup University program, which was an elective course, and no other elective was taken by 20% of the students. So they are very, very open for this, and they came up with very good ideas, honestly. So I'm also very optimistic from this aspect. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's very good. It's a very good news, I think. Csaba, please.
Yeah, two things. One, that before the time when innovation and technology transfer was organized, at least in our university, of course there was a way how these projects can pay back to the university. I mean, in our case, we were establishing a full-scale lab. We brought in almost more than €1 million grant to the university. There were quite a few PhD courses that were done. There were quite a few thesis courses. And of course, this project took the name of the university to world congresses and the book chapters to Q1 publications and so on and so forth. But of course, these were not defined, and these were just because of a good connection between the group and the university. Since we are consciously paying attention to innovations taking part inside of the university, I think one of our major role inside is to pick these projects up, have them, package them into a nice package, and equip them so that they would be transferred into the hands of an investor. So they could be ready and a good target for investments. So in this case, even these medtech projects can be a good targets for venture capitals. So definitely, if our projects will be coming to that stage that they could be handed over, definitely I will call András that, okay, hey András, we have these projects and they are ready for good investments, and they would be good targets for you. So I think since now we are paying attention to this, my optimism also, I am optimistic also, and my optimism is based on the good management, the possible good management of these projects inside of the universities.
Thank you very much. Laszlo, please.
You're muted.
Muted. You are now muted.
So,
yes, we can hear you.
Regarding this proof of concept fund, this was a government initiative. Actually, it is based on a worldwide experience that university inventions are far from ready to any kind of investment. Even for pre-seed investment, they are not there simply. So we tried this proof of concept funding for universities. This was in a grant where actually they could choose this type of activity. It was not obligatory. It was like a menu they could choose from, and quite a few have chosen it, and there was quite strong interest. So over 250 projects were evaluated by something like 12 universities or 13 universities, and about approximately 100 were selected, and these short POC projects were run. We are now in the phase of evaluating how far they got with these projects. But what is interesting that in the second round, it was a much higher interest. Now, actually, something like 16 universities wanted to start this POC fund, because they saw that this is a good tool of taking some university innovation. This can be like from everyone, so it can be a researcher, student, PhD student, anyone who has some idea. And as I said here, the decisions are made in a board where the majority is from industry, and the universities see this as an important tool to get their innovations ready for some kind of investment, or to find out that these innovations are just simply not suitable for any kind of innovation. It might be a very exciting research result, but not something that innovation can be made of. So this shows that there is an interest in the universities to work in this field. And obviously, the patenting and intellectual property protection area is something which is lagging behind. So the numbers in Hungary are unfortunately much lower than in most of the EU countries. This is one aspect of this, that it is very expensive in Hungary. I just heard now in a seminar that, for example, in the Czech Republic, it is like 1/3 of the cost as it is in Hungary for IP protection. So there are a lot of things that are connected, but this shows that at least on the university part, there is a willingness to cooperate with industry.
Thank you very much. That's exactly what I wanted to ask in my other question, because we have different ways of technology or knowledge transfer, and definitely one way is to do through the licensing of patents and other intellectual property rights. Then the second one, it's actually creating spin-offs, either with the share or just supporting academics or students. And the third one would be basically supporting startups, providing counseling, incubators, and so on. So it seems that nowadays in Hungary, it's concentrated on either creating spin-offs from the universities and research organization, or basically supporting startups, rather than protecting the IP and doing through the licensing. At least this is my impression, that it's now concentrated more on spin-offs and startups, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct, Laszlo?
No, spin-offs. I don't think that spin-offs is a main trend in Hungary. It is. I don't want to go into the details of that, but one reason for that is that actually where university is among the owners, this is a nightmare for any other investor. So investors are just simply evading those companies where universities have an equity in the startup. Okay, this can be, there are practical solutions for that, but I don't think that creating spin-offs is now something, a trendy thing in Hungary. And actually, personally, I'm not that much for this solution. No, this is not the main trend.
Thank you very much, Csaba.
Yes, I would like to react to what Laszlo has been just saying, that if I were an investor, I would very be cautious about a company who has a university as an owner, as a part owner. So this is why, in our case, there's a company, a normal company below our university who is actually going to invest into the local projects, and these local projects are going to belong not to the university itself, but to this company who can freely deal or trade with these spin-offs.
Great, thank you very much. The same question is to Ferenc and András, whether as an investor you would be willing or more cautious about you will be willing to invest in a company which is owned by the university, or whether you would prefer something which is outside. That was exactly my question. Ferenc.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm not an investor, so
if you were an investor, let's
well, I think, you know, I would focus on the content and not necessarily, you know, who is the owner. But just coming back, you know, your previous question, if I may, my experience is that actually universities are focusing on grant money. That's what I experience, and then, you know, I'm happy that there are others who you know, are not behaving like that. But what I usually experience, you know, that there is a statement that the bad money is replacing the good money. So, you know, if there is 100% grant money available for product development, and this is targeted for universities, that this is what the universities are going after. So my experience at the moment is, it's, as I said, you know, universities I meet are much more focusing on early stages, rather research and development, and not innovation in a way that, you know, commercial success. That okay, let's get the grant money, let's get the administration around that, and we are fine. And the commercialization is something where I see less universities to be professional and less universities to focus on the first one, you know, to get the grant and do the nice job to make the development. Yes, there are many good examples. Commercialization, I see less examples, but I can say personally that I have been involved in certain projects where we try to work in a way that we are paying royalty for intellectual property that is co-created with the university. So we do some grant money, or we utilize some grant money, but we try to create a structure where there is an incentive for the university to help with the commercial success as well, or to work toward the commercial success in a way that there is an IP created for the university, and we are utilizing the IP. So this is my experience. I saw less examples of investing in startups. Yes, there are some investment funds around universities. Yes, there are some university owned companies. I have less experience with that. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist. That's my personal experience.
Thank you very much for sharing the experience. That's what we have been doing actually in our city. András, what's your experience? What's your view?
Not that much that I can add. Just one note: as an investor, we always focusing on when we analyze an opportunity as structure. We don't really care if it's a spin-off or what. It's always in a personal level what we have to investigate. We have to understand the real motivation, the financial motivation, or the real motivation behind that, the true capabilities that a team or an individual has, and the left is coming. So by that, if I'm talking about financial motivation, yes, they must be shareholders of the company, massive shareholders, majority shareholders of the company, that the motivation is placed well, and everything else is legal stuff. So it's a people business to start a company out of nothing. Venture capital investing is always, it's also the other way is true, that that I strongly believe that the right startup companies selecting the investors not in a financial level, who is giving the best offer, the best valuation of the company. They make a decision that they want to work with us, with me personally or my colleagues, or with someone else.
Right.
Because a startup company, okay, I'm not talking if it fails, then it fails, but if it's successful, it will be very tough moments ahead, because by nature growing is creating tough situations. And the real question that whom you want to handle this problem together with. And so that's why I'm repeating myself, that it's a people business and not about legal structure of a spin-off or finding the right licensing.
Thank you very much. Csaba, maybe you still raise your hand if you want to add something.
No, I did it before, but I can just repeat what András has said. Completely agree. So we have to work together in glorious situations and in shitty situations as well. And a faceless university is not the best partner for that. But a company with faces and with guys who you can, I don't know, sit down and talk to and look into the eyes, that's a completely different story.
Thank you very much. So we have last 5 minutes. Anybody from the audience, curious people from Slovakia, from Poland, from the Czech Republic, comments from anybody from other Hungarians who are actually with us today, or maybe from Georgia, from Armenia. We have also these people visiting us. So I know that the weather is nice outside, so people are looking forward just to go for a few more hours. At least here the sun is shining, so it's nice. Everybody? I will see whether I have some friends there, but I don't want to call them immediately. So maybe if there are no questions, maybe anybody of you last comments, last suggestions, last sharing, anything you want to share in terms of technology transfer, innovation, some incentives, ideas, what we can learn from Hungary, what we shouldn't learn from Hungary, anything, positive, negative examples. It's very nice to learn from the mistakes of the others. It's better to learn from the mistakes from the others rather from ours, but it's
Yeah, mistakes we have a lot, so this one we can help with.
So everywhere. Okay, so then if nobody wants to discuss and comment anymore, it was a great pleasure to be with all of you here. Thank you for sharing your experience. Thank you for actually introducing us the Hungarian system, because for all of us, people say that Hungarian language is difficult, that they cannot read it, they cannot listen to it. So at least if you have the maps, if you have the graphs, it's much more easier to understand. So now we understand a bit. So thank you very much for this. And thank you all of you who were with us. And we will meet next time, which will be the 10th of May. And we will talk about technology transfer and innovations in Armenia. And finally, we should have a present session. We should be not online, but already in the Czech Republic in June. So we're looking forward to this opportunity. So thank you very much. I hope the weather will stay nice in Hungary for the next 4 days, because I will be there, and hope to see you next time. And I wish you all the best. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye bye all.